And you see all the little perforations? That lets the sludge down through. And that's filled with, in the old days, kerosene, but now with benzene, cleaning fluid. And you put your brushes in, and you clean them off against that, do you see? And then I wash them with soap and water. Ivory soap. Okay, slop bucket. We're going to pick up this morning where we left off in the last video. We talked about designs within the design, and we began with this very small painting, a landscape, a premier coup, meaning a piece done in one session, and the idea is that you don't go back, never go back to the nature. It's a one-shot thing. You've got it, and it should hang on the walls of the Metropolitan Museum, or you haven't got it. And I wanted to continue because we started basically on a small scale with this painting, and then we did a segment of the painting that I'm working on here with 3 figures. And now I want to get up onto a larger scale. But what I want to point out is that we turned this, of course, upside down and on its edges. But if you look at here, you can see these demarcations in reference to the edge. For instance, here, do you see? Well, that's where it is. It's not down there, it's up there. The same with here. There are divisions in here. Every line, if you want, is going out to the edge, and the edges count as the first 4 lines of the composition. I can't tell you how important that is. And at the Art Students League, in the Edwin Dickinson class, I trained myself doing premier coup to get the drawing down to 5 minutes, of which the first 3 were selection of subject matter, and the next 2 was the actual drawing. And in doing the actual drawing, often with the finger and dipped in neutral paint, not with a brush or pencil or anything else, you just hit the big demarcation so that you divide the composition into 5 or 6 large areas. And that is precisely the same way I basically work when I approach a composition on a large scale like this 3-figure piece. So what we're going to get into is that these lines, if you will, on the 2-dimensional surface, which are in space, are a part of the landscape, can be extended out beyond the limits of the canvas itself. You're not designing something. I'm painting a thing in the middle and it's floating around in an indeterminate space, which I happen to make a rectangle that size. I'm very serious about the first 4 lines of the composition. So let's go from here to this figure of Regina here, the last of a series of 3. And of course we have a vertical axis here. But look, the same thing is taking place. These are all geometric shapes. Where do they come? Where do they come? On the edge, do you see? How does it go? Some softer, some clearer, some this, some that. The whole business designed in reference to the first 4 lines of the composition. So now let's go over here. What I've found is that if you approach the painting, the work of art, this way, that the designs do continue out past the edge. And it isn't just I who have determined that. People who have owned my paintings and have remarked on it. With a head, for instance, it seems to extend, the arcs and so forth extend beyond the frame. It fills up the room, it goes past. When you design out to the edge, everything then becomes, in a sense, ordered and geometric. And if you can take in the whole deal here, let me move this chair, if it's throwing light, shadow on it rather. If you can get the whole ensemble, do you see the wall here? Here, I've put up another a nude of Regina again reclining. And let's look at what happens. The arcs, how they go, how the big arc of her is set up by the verticals of these two figures in here. It wasn't planned that I do this. That you see how the drapery works in here, how the geometry seems to echo and work throughout the piece. I hope that's clear. And if I move this painting over a few inches to here, when it was over here, you didn't really see this as anything other except abstract shapes. You didn't see buttocks and whatnot. Well, now you do, but actually I think if you look at it in the ensemble again, what you see is not spine and buttocks and legs and one thing or another, but just this kind of line playing against that kind of line. And that's all that painting is. Painting are shapes of color on a flat surface. There are lines, there's some are softer, some are harder. There are movement, there's rhythm, there's pattern, there's repetition, there's asymmetry, there's all kinds of stuff, but that's all of what it is. And that's the point I want to make about the abstraction. That it doesn't begin with a thing. It arrives ultimately, finally, at the thing. And the thingness of the thing can get in the way of looking at it so that one doesn't see the abstraction of the process, which I feel makes me closer in my approach to some purely non-figurative painters like Rothko or Frank Stella, early Frank Stella, that kind of thing. I feel closer to it because they're dealing with shapes without representation, and that essentially is what I'm doing. I'm arriving at it. Of course, the impulse with me is through the thing itself.